Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, a coronial inquest has begun into the sudden deaths of 7 children over a 4-year period in Tasmania. The state's child safety system placed under the microscope. With a court hearing, there were deficiencies in a number of cases. Our reporter, Ruby Kamain, has the story.
A 3-day inquest here at Hobart's Coroner's Court, examining the deaths of 6 infants and 1 teenager between 2014 and 2018. The cases all linked by some connection to child safety services. The court hearing the stories of 3 babies, aged around 2 months, who died suddenly while sleeping with a parent or sibling. Another, just under 4 months old, found dead sleeping on a couch. 1 7-month-old drowned in the bath while under the care of a parent. And a 16-year-old and their 2-month-old child died in a vehicle crash. In opening submissions, counsel assisting the coroner saying all of the children or family members were known to child safety services. Also questioning to what extent action or inaction formed circumstances of any deaths. An expert examining child safety services involvement, telling the court there were similarities among all the children's households, including histories of domestic violence, neglect and drug and alcohol abuse. Also saying there were deficiencies in the department's response and risk assessments for several families. The inquest before Coroner Olivia McTaggart will continue tomorrow, set to hear from counsel for child safety services. Everyone involved in the case, including witnesses, cannot be identified.
And if you or someone you know needs help, you can contact 1-800-RESPECT. A 36-year-old man has suffered cuts to his hand after an incident at Ravenswood yesterday morning. Police were called to a block of units on Waring Street, where a group of males allegedly had various weapons. 5 men were arrested and charged with aggravated burglary and aggravated assault. The men were known to each other. Anyone with information is urged to call Crime Stoppers. A petition has been launched to fully reopen the emergency department at the Mersey Community Hospital. A shortage of locums has forced the Health Minister to wind back operating hours, but Labor is calling for action.
Labor's angry and it's taking names.
We're here today to launch a petition for the emergency department here to be the hours to be restored 24/7 when it's safe to do so.
From today, opening hours at the Mersey's emergency department will be further reduced, only operating between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. A shortage of locums fuelled by the pandemic has forced the change. Unions and Labor want to know when it will fully reopen and how the government will fix staffing.
What is the government's plan? We know that there are people who want to work here, who want contracts here, and those contracts are not offered.
Recruitment is happening, says the Health Minister. She's accused the opposition of spreading fear.
I want to be very clear that I want that emergency department open 24 hours, but now is not the time for politics.
But she's reminded Tasmanians it is time to take a COVID test, even if you have the slightest symptoms.
A sore throat, a bit of a cough, a runny nose.
Medical staff are clearing roughly 500 tests a day. Spare a thought for those braving winter to do it.
Sometimes the rain is sideways in the tent, the snow well down on the mountain, but they really have been fantastic.
And as the state continues on its path back to normality, there's at least one restriction that won't be lifted anytime soon. The Public Health Director is warning bars and nightclubs dancing likely won't be permitted this year. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A political spat between the Greens, Labor and Speaker Sue Hickey is dragged on for another day. Cassie O'Connor is accusing Ms Hickey of censorship following a fiery debate in Parliament on Thursday. The Greens leader had been responding to accusations by Labor of bias towards China.
Anyways, your time is up. Thank you, Dr Broad.
Well, Madam Speaker, I'll be back in here because I want Ms Haddad to withdraw that accusation and apologise.
It's very concerning that a Speaker in a democratic Westminster Parliament would insert herself into a debate like that and seek to shut down a member.
She's written to the Speaker asking for an explanation. Ms Hickey denies she censored the MP, saying simply her time was up. Opposition towards the state government's major projects bill is ramping up ahead of this week's parliamentary debate. An alliance of community groups is calling on the government to dump the controversial legislation, while the Greens want Labor to also block the bill.
This bill is complex, it's messy, it's cumbersome, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't put protections for the environment and community first.
This bill still allows high tower buildings to be built in Hobart. They can be called in at the Minister's discretion. The Council has no say, the voters have no say.
The government argues the reforms will create certainty for developers. The Hobart City Council has deferred a final decision on whether to allow a new hospital to be built at Newtown. The proposal from Nexus Hospitals is for the construction of a $55 million private medical centre to meet rising demand for health services. Council tonight voted to give the applicant a chance to make amendments to comply with a planning scheme. Officers had recommended the development be refused, saying it's not compatible with nearby buildings, doesn't contribute to the streetscape and will have an unreasonable impact on residents. The coronavirus has brought with it many challenges for Tasmanians, but one that may not be front of mind is low literacy. Support services have seen an uptick in people seeking help to not only read health messages, but also increase job-ready skills.
Low literacy can make a person feel embarrassed and isolated. Throw in a pandemic and it's enough to make anyone feel distressed.
All of a sudden you're locked out of the information that you need, and that's what it can be like for people who find it difficult, have difficulties with reading and writing, so they're missing out on information.
Large-scale job losses and the state's lockdown period has resulted in more people having the time and desire to improve their literacy skills.
Some people may have not had to ever apply for their job by submitting resumes or addressing selection criteria, reading advertisements online or in the newspaper. So having the skills to be able to do that effectively is very important for Tasmanians' opportunity to get into employment.
For migrants, a language barrier only adds to the stress. The Migrant Resource Centre in Tasmania provides audio recordings and reading material in various languages to help people from a non-English speaking background understand COVID restrictions and public health guidelines.
People could either read that information or they could listen to it. And of course, some people may be non-literate in their own language, so having that access to audio is really, really very useful.
For anyone looking for literacy support, they can call the 2610 hotline or pop into their local library and ask to speak to a literacy coordinator. Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
The Tasmanian State League has survived a wide-ranging restructure across the AFL, but the competition is being warned next year will be one of transition for state leagues nationwide. While at AFL Tasmania, Tricia Squires is set to be replaced as CEO by Damien Gill. When Tricia Squires took the top job in 2018, the eyes of the football public were on Burnie and Devonport's shock departure from the State League the week before. Today's exit was equally as quiet. Announced among a raft of changes and job cuts nationwide, Squires will now head AFL Queensland. Former Public Affairs Manager Damien Gill will take her place as CEO as he enters his 4th year with the organisation. State League clubs could also be in for a shake-up, with the AFL describing next year as one of transition for second-tier leagues. Ominously, the axe has fallen on the NEFL, with that league to be absorbed by the VFL and teams to fly in and out of Victoria. Changes too for the Tassie Devils. The NAB League will move from under 16 and 18 competitions to under 17 and 19. On the field, the two northern sides are focused solely on this week's Wednesday night blockbuster.
Quite a few guys to hopefully come back in. We've got final training run tonight, Fletcher Seymour, Tim Bristow, Michael Musica, so we've got some decisions to make tonight at training. Launceston is coming off the bye. North Launceston is dealing with a quick turnaround after thumping Glenorchy at KG5.
The boys' body should be prepared for the game. It's going to be more of a mental battle for us.
Jared Dakin is likely to line up on Whitford. And to the RACT Insurance TSL Player of the Year votes now after round 7. Sharon Eggers' 4-goal haul earned him the lion's share of votes for North Launceston. Bryce Walsh is back to his best, taking 3 votes for Lauderdale against the Tigers. And Clarence vice-captain Ethan Jackson was best on ground against North Hobart. On the leaderboard, Launceston's Joby Harper remains on top, 3 votes clear of Kieran Lovell. Josh McGuinness and Dylan Riley are also around the mark. To the NPL, Kingbra's coach says he took a lot of pride out of the side's 3-3 draw with Olympia. The Lions came back from 2-0 down to briefly lead the clash. A late equaliser from Adam Gorry stopped Kingbra from taking full points.
Could have easily dropped our head, and here we go again. But no, the boys stood up, took accountability. I think the second half we were, what we were really all about.
The Lions are up against Devonport in the next round. Another Northwest Thunder player has been picked up by the US college system. Taryn Armstrong will join his older brother Trey at California Baptist University. The college has described the 6'5" guard as a huge pickup for its team. Stuart McSwain has set a personal best in the 1500 metres just days after being selected for the Tokyo Games. The Tasmanian made a late charge at the Diamond League meet in Stockholm and briefly snuck into second on the final lap. He ended up finishing third with a time of 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Kenya's Timothy Chariot claimed the win.
Good evening. A cool day today as we fell in the path of a southwesterly airstream. Hobart 12, Burnie 13, Launceston and Devonport 14, and that was as warm as it got, 14. Also recorded by St Helens. Smithton, Lowhead and Friendly Beaches 13, Bushy Park, Strawn and the Bass Strait Islands 12, Lyawini a top of 5. Low-level clouds streamed over the west and south of the state today. Clearer conditions over the north and east. A cold pool of air is over the Southern Ocean, moving over Tasmania and Victoria. A low-pressure centre nears Western Australia. Mostly clear skies for the rest of the country. Tomorrow, a broad area of high pressure lies over the southeast of the nation, maintaining our weather. A couple of heat lows and troughs over central and western regions. West to southwesterly winds again at 15 to 20 knots, increasing to 20 to 30 knots over southern waters. Swells to 3 metres there. We have a strong wind warning south from Wineglass Bay around to Low Rocky Point. Forecast for tomorrow, Hobart partly cloudy, 13 the top, Adventure Bay 11, Tarraleah a shower or 2 and 7. Launceston morning fog and frost and 13 degrees, Devonport partly cloudy and 13, same for Bridport 13 the top. Burnie partly cloudy and 13, Strawn showery and 12, Marrawar shower or 2 and 12 degrees. St Helens partly cloudy and 15, Swansea as well, 14 degrees, a bit of cloud and 13 for Whitemark on Flinders. Now, Wednesday, fine and partly cloudy for most. The west and King Island may witness a shower. Showers extending statewide late on Thursday with snow to 700 metres. And on Friday, showers contracting to the west and far south in the afternoon. Fine elsewhere, maybe some snow on the peaks. Mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow, partly cloudy in Adelaide, a shower or 2 in Melbourne. Cool and cloudy for Canberra and Sydney, but warmer further north. 7 degrees in Hobart at the moment and partly cloudy in Launceston and 9, 8 degrees in Devonport currently and clear, Kim.
Thank you very much, Murph. That's all your news for now. We'll be back later with updates. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.